everybody, and welcome back to the T.H.O. Movie Reviews podcast, the show where we bring you passionate, honest, and insightful film criticism. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson. I'm joined today by my wonderful colleagues Maxwell Meyers and Mo Shaunette, and today we are taking a question from one of our listeners, Sarah Michelle Jagger, and that question is James Bond a misogynist? Max, you want to take it away?
Yes. Okay, I'll say yes and no. I feel like when Bond was created, yeah, he was kind of a misogynist. And he just kind of stayed that way. But I think he's evolved and gotten better with time, but I still don't think he's, fully, out of the woods, if you know what I mean. I think he still has some misogynist issues, but I think the studios have realized that. They're like, how can we fix this? Let's make it a little better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of the women he has in his life can also handle themselves, and sometimes even went up against him, because there's always the one femme fatale.
Right.
So I think there's some misogynist overtones, and I think they tried at times to make it better. But overall, yes, I'm going to go misogyny.
Mo?
I would say no, but that's because I have a very specific definition of the word misogyny in my head. I'd say James Bond is more of a chauvinist, definitely sexist, and it's rooted in this idea, again, imperialism to a certain extent, because he is traveling the world and using his incredible Britishness to fix everyone else's problems.
He's so British.
But just he's a character who uses women liberally. The movies certainly do, and they reflect his attitude. So basically, Bond, it's sort of interesting, again, looking at how the Bond girls changed and how their perception changed. Because at first they were heralded as not necessarily icons of feminists, but revolutionary in that they were sexually liberated, and they weren't just these damsels who were saved by James Bond. They sometimes were active in the story. But then you move to the modern day, and we sort of acknowledge they're used by James Bond for sex as status. We the audience are supposed to be impressed by James Bond because he has sex with all these gorgeous women, and that's a problem because it's objectifying. So I think they're getting better about it. I think there's definitely more women in the world of James Bond. Moneypenny definitely has a bigger role in the news version. M was a bigger character, but it still feels like a lot of them are just sort of used by James Bond. And this is something, I don't know if this is exactly relevant, but this is something I was thinking about earlier with Spectre, because I still don't like that movie, but but part of the thing that you talked about in your review was James Bond sort of retiring with this girl. Mm-hmm. I forget what her name was.
Oh, Madeline Swan. Yeah.
Blue is the warmest color.
Right. Yes, you know.
It's sort of heralded as this moment of James Bond retiring with a woman that he loves, and I thought back to this scene from the show Master of None, where the main character he's in a long-term relationship, and he's imagining getting married to this girl, and the priest asks the girl, are you ready to marry this man, even though just because you're at an age where you're expected to be married and this is the person you're with at the time? And I feel like that's kind of what happens with James Bond. He's expecting to retire, and this girl just happens to be there.
Yep. I agree. She's too young for him.
Yeah. So I don't think that's relevant to your question, but I just had that thought.
I think it's incredibly relevant. Yeah. My feeling is I do think he's a misogynist, and I say that not just based on the movies, but based on the fact that in the book Casino Royale, the first James Bond novel, Bond says something about the sweet tang of rape. So,
whoa,
ouch, make of that what you will.
See, this is why sometimes you do need studio intervention, because authors will say shit like that.
Exactly.
Pardon my language.
it did not come up in the movie, though, right? I feel like I would have been
There's still
really uncomfortable.
There's still some creepiness to Bond. I will say that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I think, I agree with much of what you guys said. I agree that, he uses women, and that the movies reflect his attitude, that the movies, use women and objectify them, because, we all know, when we're going to see a Bond film, we're going to see some hot babes.
There's a Bond girl.
Yeah, there's probably going to be some plunging necklines involved. But I do think, in terms of sexism, there's something inherently wrong with the Bond formula to begin with, because, the man is dominant, the man's in control, and like a lot of the women in those movies don't have really any say in much of anything. But I do give the Daniel Craig movies a fair bit of credit for playing with that mythology. And like what I really liked in Casino Royale is there's a moment when Bond with Vesper Lynd, Ava Green's character, he's literally ready to give it all up for her. He was ready to. You talked about him retiring. He was ready back then, but of course then she betrays him, and then he's like I never wanted to retire. I just want to be a spy now that she betrayed me. But I think that really stuck in my head, the idea that Casino Royale, the movie planted, which was that he really was capable of actually loving someone, and that he had that within him. And as far as with the storyline Inspector with Léa Seydoux' character, I feel I really liked the way that kind of tweaked the Bond mythology, because you're absolutely right. Societal expectations, being expected to settle down, etc., etc. But at the same time, you think about it. You think about the Bond formula. The Bond formula is that Bond loves him and leaves him. He sometimes doesn't even love him at all. He just leaves them.
Oh.
And so I think it's a pretty radical thing to have a Bond movie where settling down is even an option, and it'll become even more radical if that really is the last Daniel Craig movie. And that's the last Bond we see, and the last time we see that Bond, he's literally leaving behind, everything about his identity, his whole profession, for a woman. And so I think that's progress. I think there's still issues, but the overarching issue is that presumably the next Bond film will have a new Bond. And it will be a Bond who has sort of gone backwards. I don't think we're going to see a movie that starts with Bond being married or starts with him treating women well. They'll undo whatever progress they've done, which is why. Wait, what?
No, I was just mouthing Idris Elba.
Oh yeah, no, I want him to. Yeah, I want him to. But I think I don't know that this is why I actually want the Bond movies to retire. I think it would be the greatest way to end the franchise with, him saying, I'm not going to be the person I was anymore. And I think that would send a strong statement. And I think it'd be cool for, studios to find new spy characters who move the genre forward. But
you can go have that conversation with Barbara Broccoli.
Well, yeah. The other part of that is it's, obviously not going to happen, because the Bond franchise is a cash cow. But
James Bond is there before we're born, and he'll be there after we die.
Many themes.
Why does that make me feel a little better? Like, for some reason, Star Wars outliving me makes me sad, but Bond outliving me just seems right. I'm like, well, that seems fair.
Maybe Bond, because Bond's like King Arthur or something.
I don't know. He seems immortal. I don't know why. That was
more
weird.
archetypal. Well, that wraps up for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Remember, if you like this podcast, please, oh please, click thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at T.H.O Movie Reviews, And please be sure to check out all the new reviews of movies and great content we have at thomoviereviews.wordpress.com. Once again, I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and from all of us here at THO Movie Reviews, happy movie watching.